It is Social Media Tuesday, and earlier in the night, we asked you what is your favorite way that the Padres give back to fans, and what keeps you coming back to Petco Park. And we have some breaking news to report right now. We are going to go to a live press conference out of Australia where the Deputy Prime Minister is giving us an update on missing Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. That is the first plane to go missing. Let's listen in.
Hey everyone, I'm Brie and I'm a Fox Sports San Diego girl. I'm from Carlsbad, California. We are known for our beautiful beaches, and I went to school at Long Beach State. Go Beach.
You know, I noticed that he mentioned a couple times middle-class economics. And of course, you know, with that, the 2 years of free community college, the 7 days of paid sick leave. And I can't help but think that some of that echoes the president's own experiences in his life.
Brie, what do you have for us?
Hey guys, hiding behind the Tony Gwynn statue. Well, the season is drawing to a close, so we want to know what you're most looking forward to in 2014 using the hashtag Padres2014.
Governor Chris Christie says Monday's suicide inside a New Jersey shopping mall should be a wake-up call to focus on mental health issues.
Today, we are learning how to be major league pitchers.
We're going to take our thumb and we're going to roll it right along that seam. Okay? And now you can feel it in the back part of your palm, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Ooh, and that was, you threw it hard, right?
Yeah.
You threw it just as fast as you want to throw a fastball, right?
That's how they were all night long. The races
really
were so incredibly close. Just to give you a little background on North Carolina. Now, North Carolina is a red state, but President Obama won all the electoral votes in the state in 2008. But in 2012, all the electoral votes went to Mitt Romney.
He's looking to prevent an act of genocide, and he feels confident that he can prevent ISIL from doing that. And that genocide that he's referring to is the Yazidi religious minority who are trapped on a remote mountainside by those ISIL militants.
A Chinese grandmother actually cried out and she said, you know, my son, my daughter-in-law, my granddaughter are all on board, and it's just wrong to get the information like this. And she's demanding proof. She's demanding confirmation. So, you know, I think it is harder to get news like this when there really is no proof.
Well, it is our last Social Media Tuesday of the season, so we want to have a little chat about the future. We want to know what you're most looking forward to from the Padres in 2014.
Do you go like this with the ball and the glove?
I'll talk to it, but please go over the plate. Please miss bats. There it is.
There we go.
That was
Nice.
awesome. We took the thinking part out and you nailed it.
Now, there is a winter storm watch in effect for parts of Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. They are seeing a mix of freezing rain and snow, but the good news is that the brunt of the storm is expected to push on through tonight. Plus, you will never believe what welfare recipients are buying with their food stamps. I'll give you a hint. The federal government says it's illegal.
And the potential crisis in Ukraine continues to unfold by the minute. We have all the details coming up this hour.
One America News Evening Edition starts now.
I was about 12 years old in 1998 when the Padres made it to the World Series. We were driving in the car. It was my mom, my brother, and I. They told us that the Padres won their game and they were going to the World Series. And it was just like, Mom started honking the horn and my brother and I were like screaming and so excited.
The truth is, it is very likely lawmakers will debate this bill up until the very end, and even then, they may not come to a resolution.
Hey, Brie.
Hey guys, that's right. And hey, September is Fan Appreciation Month. And in honor of that, we're asking you to use the hashtag #MyHomeMyTeam.
And while Beverly Hills and Palm Springs have to cut water use by 35%, in other cities like Santa Cruz and San Francisco, where residents already conserve water, reduction targets are at 10%. Something I found to be very interesting was that while there are many attack ads out against Clinton, she is not wasting her time yet doing the same.
The population is spread out. We are going to have to wait. It might even be a couple weeks until we hear about Alaska.
But we're biting our nails. We want to know.
Which way do you think I'd go with that one?
Paperback all the way.
Favorite Padre player of all time? I mean, I know it's not easy to pick one.
All time. Oh my gosh.
I know that's really hard. I'm going to go with Trevor Hoffman.
I was just going to say that.
You're allowed to pick the same one. That's fine.
Trevor
was here
Trevor
yesterday.
time. That
He was
my
sitting right
favorite.
where you're
Yeah.
sitting, Katie,
Oh my
yesterday.
gosh.
Oh.
I know.
This is like gold right here.
We've met him before. We met him in Houston Street, and it was like, okay, I'm never washing my hand again.
Esau Garner is shedding new light on the type of man Eric Garner was and how police officers in New York specifically knew Eric Garner and his wife, and they called him the cigarette man. Now, we reported yesterday that Standard & Poor's estimates that $24 billion was taken out of the economy during that 16-day shutdown, and that correlates to about $1.5 billion a day. Doctors have been experimenting with this sort of treatment for years now, the idea of killing cancer with viruses. But only until recently did doctors reach a breakthrough in really fighting the disease, and it's in large part due to technological advances in the genetic engineering of viruses.
New research out of Duke University. The Preston Robert Tisch Brain Tumor Center finds that genetically engineered poliovirus could be a new anti-cancer agent. In 3 years, 5 brain tumor patients have been treated when the virus is injected directly into a patient's tumor. That ensures the tumor will have the maximal amount of infecting and killing tumor cells, which is exactly what happened to Stephanie Liscombe, whose aggressive form of glioblastoma continues to shrink.
The tumor, such as Stephanie's, is the worst of the worst of the worst you can imagine. This is a type of cancer that does not respond well to anything out there. So that we are seeing a response at all is remarkable. And then the type of response we have seen with Stephanie is the more astonishing.
Doctors say these are very encouraging signs and that clinical trials are now underway against glioblastoma brain tumors in adults and brain tumors in children.
We are throwing everything we got at these tumors, and we have to even get more aggressive on our research effort because for every patient where we have successes, we have others where we don't. So this spurs us on to work even harder.
And Dr. Matthias Gromeyer goes on to say that it is not time for celebration just yet. They need to push on and find a cure, and he's not the only one pushing ahead. Doctors are also using the herpes virus and HIV to cure cancer. A new study published in the New England Journal of Medicine finds that 27 out of 30 adults and children with leukemia achieved complete remission 1 month after being injected with a disabled form of HIV. Certainly an exciting breakthrough in the medical field, the thought of killing cancer using diseases that formerly killed us. This was a hard case for many to watch. The former governor was an extremely likable guy who was a Boy Scout and has a very long record of service to the Commonwealth. I spoke with Richard Kelsey, an assistant dean at George Mason University School of Law, and he says McDonnell enjoys a very strong reputation across both aisles of being ethical. So when this issue arose, it was very surprising.
The governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia is considered to be one of the strongest governorships in the country. That's why we only have a single term of 4 years, because the governor is so powerful.
And with power comes the ability to abuse it. Johnny Williams is the wealthy Richmond businessman who gave the entire McDonnell family gifts, including a $6,000 Rolex watch, loans, and plane rides in exchange for promoting a nutritional supplement. But according to Kelsey, the damning piece of evidence comes down to an email.
At the end of the day, there's a piece of evidence in this case that's very difficult for the governor to overcome. And that is that shortly after receiving confirmation that he would get a very low interest loan that he needed for some properties that he had, about 5 or 6 minutes later, he sat down and sent an email directing the apparatus of the state to take a meeting with Johnny Williams about potentially bolstering his product.
And Kelsey says that looks to a jury like quid pro quo. Now, the launch of that particular product also took place at the governor's mansion, and the prosecution argues that, too, was an official act by the governor's office. Now, the prosecution wants the official act of a governor to be just about anything he does other than open up his Christmas cards. So Kelsey believes the jury was driven towards the verdict that it ultimately rendered, that the governor committed an official act, and that is criminal.
That's why I think the case has been so interesting, because it combines, in this instance, law, politics, power, corruption, and even a little bit of soap opera between the governor and his wife.
Many believe Maureen McDonald, Bob McDonald's wife, was the catalyst in all this. She was the recipient of many of the more lavish gifts, and Bob McDonald's sister says Maureen has a history of, quote, inappropriate behavior. Now we'll have more on Maureen's sentencing, which comes next month, along with a closer look at the bigger picture here. What exactly is going to change in terms of Virginia law? So be sure to tune in to One America News for that. Back to you now at the desk.
When we think back on 2014, many of us will remember the Ebola scare. The out-of-control virus killed thousands in West Africa and then made its way to the U.S. Because the illness was so unique, many did not understand the gravity of its contagion, and the virus spread like wildfire, creating the worst Ebola outbreak of all time. Spreading fear around the world was a group that was relatively unknown prior to this year, the Islamic State. We saw the rise of a new terrorist threat throughout 2014, this one more gruesome and frightening than the others. The world watched as ISIS beheaded innocent people, and the U.S. quickly realized something had to be done. An air raid campaign to take out the militant group began in September. Americans also realized something had to be done about the border crisis. A record number of unaccompanied minors crossed the border into the U.S. from Central America, causing a shift in priorities among Americans, the need for better border security. That shift in Americans' priorities also coming into play during the midterm elections, when Republicans were voted into control of both houses of Congress.
Whether you're a coal miner in eastern Kentucky who can't find work, or a mom in Paducah who doesn't understand why the government just took away her family's health insurance, I've heard your concerns. I've made them my own. You will be heard in Washington.
And in Ferguson, Missouri, Americans' attitude shifted when an unarmed black teenager was shot to death by a police officer. Months of protests followed, highlighting the racial complexities between minorities and our nation's law enforcement. Protests and violence also taking place in other parts of the world. In the Gaza Strip, the already tense relationship between Israelis and Palestinians gets worse. In July, Israel demands Hamas disarm itself, while Hamas calls for an end to the Israeli blockade of Gaza. Both sides aim for control of the Middle East. In Ukraine, protesting continues to this day, and it all started when demonstrators demanded then-President Viktor Yanukovych be impeached. Russia then refused to recognize the new interim government, and pro-Russian rebels took the fight into Ukraine. In July, a passenger plane carrying 298 people went down over Ukraine. It's believed pro-Russian militants shot down the plane, a claim President Putin denies. And then who can forget the other passenger jet that seemingly disappeared over the southern Indian Ocean? Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 went missing in March with 239 people on board from 15 different nations. It's believed the jetliner crashed into the ocean, although no trace of wreckage has yet to be found. In some lighthearted fun, people everywhere drenched themselves in cold water for the Ice Bucket Challenge to raise awareness for ALS. Even some of the One America News staff took part. Sports enthusiasts all over the world watched Germany clinch its 4th title in the FIFA World Cup, and Malala Yousafzai became the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winner for her quest for a girl's right to education.
I'm very proud to be the first Pashtun, the first Pakistani, and the youngest person to receive this award.
And space was on the minds of many in 2014 as the Rosetta spacecraft became the first of its kind to orbit a comet. Finally, some incredible people were laid to rest. Maya Angelou, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Joan Rivers, and Robin Williams. Taking a look back at 2014, I'm Brie Thiele, One America News.